My name is Olivia. I was 22 years old, and at that time, life felt like a heavy weight on my shoulders. My family needed money, and I desperately needed a job. Every day I searched the classifieds, hoping for something, anything, that could keep me afloat. One morning, I saw an ad in the newspaper. It was unusual. A man needed a maid for his 2 young children. The words were simple, but something about the way it was written felt urgent, almost desperate. Like they weren't only searching for help with chores, but something more. I didn't have much of a choice. I called, and by the next afternoon, I was standing at the gates of the house. When I first saw it, my breath caught in my throat. The place was enormous, like a mansion you'd only expect to see in old films. Tall iron gates stood before me, painted black, and the windows above were dark and cold, almost as if they were watching me. For a moment, I thought about turning back. But I couldn't. I rang the doorbell, my hands trembling, my heart beating so fast I thought the whole neighborhood could hear it. The door opened slowly. A tall man stood there. His dark eyes were heavy, tired, as if he carried years of grief inside them. His expression was unreadable, his face serious, his voice flat when he finally spoke. "You're here for the maid?" A shiver ran down my spine. I swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, sir. My name is Olivia." He gave the faintest nod. "I'm Daniel." Without another word, he stepped aside and let me in. The first thing I noticed inside the house was the silence. Not the comfortable kind, but the kind that presses against your skin, makes you feel out of place. My footsteps echoed on the marble floor as I walked through the grand hallway. The air smelled faintly of dust and something old. The walls were lined with faded photographs. I stopped to look at them. In almost every picture, there was a woman. Beautiful, graceful, but never smiling. Her expression was always distant, her eyes carrying a sadness that unsettled me. She looked like a queen locked in her own loneliness. Upstairs, I thought I heard the sound of tiny footsteps. But just as quickly as they came, they vanished into silence. The house felt as if it was holding its breath, waiting. When I finally met the children, I understood even more. They were twins, about 7 years old. Noah and Lily. At first, they only stood at the doorway, watching me. Their wide eyes were cautious, their bodies stiff. They didn't run or laugh like children usually do. They didn't even smile. They just looked at me, as though testing me, as though deciding if I was someone they could trust. "This is Olivia," Daniel said in that distant voice of his. "She'll be your new maid." The children didn't respond. Their silence hung in the room like a heavy curtain. I smiled gently, trying to make my voice soft. "Hello, Noah." "Hello, Lily." But still, they said nothing. That was the beginning of my new life inside that mansion. I was given a small room at the back of the house. Every day I cooked, cleaned, and took care of the children. At first, they followed me with their eyes everywhere I went, but rarely spoke. I never once heard them laugh. It was as though the sound of joy had been forgotten inside those walls. Daniel, too, remained distant. He spent most of his time in his office, working late into the night. He ate meals alone and barely said a word to me. I could tell he wasn't cruel, just broken, somehow. One evening, while cleaning the attic, I discovered a small, dusty box tucked away beneath old furniture. Inside, I found letters and a diary. They belonged to Isabella, Daniel's late wife. As I read her words, my heart ached. She wrote about her loneliness, about how Daniel buried himself in his work, how she longed for laughter and warmth in that big, empty house. Yet in her writing, she always spoke of her children with love, and even of Daniel, though she described him as a man who didn't know how to show his heart. The last letter in the box was sealed. I held it in my hands for a long time, wondering if I should open it. Something told me those words were not meant for me. So I placed it back. As weeks passed, I began to see small changes. Noah and Lily, though still quiet, started to draw near to me. One evening, I found them sitting on the floor with crayons, giggling softly as they drew. It was the first time I had heard their laughter, and the sound made me smile without even realizing it. When I turned, I saw Daniel standing in the doorway. He wasn't saying anything, just watching. His eyes softened. "They haven't laughed like this in a very long time," he said quietly. It was the first personal thing he'd ever shared with me. My heart skipped. Not long after, a woman came to the house. She was tall, elegant, and strict. "I'm Clara," she introduced herself. "Isabella's sister." From the moment she laid eyes on me, I could sense her disapproval. She watched me closely, her lips pressed into a thin line. Later that evening, she cornered me in the kitchen. "You think you can just walk in and take my sister's place?" she demanded. I shook my head quickly. "No, of course not. I'm just here to help." She smirked. "Don't fool yourself. Daniel was never happy with Isabella. He is cold, incapable of love. My sister suffered in this house. Don't think you'll change anything. You'll never belong here." Her words stung. For days, I couldn't shake them off. But Daniel surprised me. One afternoon, Clara criticized me in front of him, saying, "The children need a real mother, Daniel. Not just some girl who plays games." I lowered my head, ashamed, but Daniel's voice cut through the silence. "Olivia is very good to my children," he said firmly. "She makes them happy. And that is enough." I looked at him in shock. For the first time, I felt something warm flicker between us. Little by little, Daniel began to open up. One rainy evening, we both knelt on the kitchen floor cleaning up after Noah had spilled paint everywhere. I laughed at the mess, and for the first time, Daniel laughed too. It was soft, almost shy, but it made my heart race. "You always make things better," he murmured. That night, Lily handed me a drawing she had made. In it, Daniel and I were standing side by side with the children smiling around us. My eyes filled with tears. Even without words, the children were telling me I was part of their world now. Weeks later, something remarkable happened. Noah whispered to me as I tucked him into bed, "Olivia, will you stay?" My heart trembled. I hugged him gently. "Yes, Noah. I'm not going anywhere." And then, the moment that changed everything, Lily, who had never spoken a word to me before, looked up at her father and whispered, "Daddy, smile." Daniel froze. His eyes widened. Then slowly, he knelt by her side, brushed her hair back, and whispered, "I will, Lily. I will smile because of you, too." That night, the house no longer felt empty. It felt alive again. Eventually, Daniel and I grew closer. He came to me one evening, his expression nervous but his eyes filled with something new, hope. "You are a miracle, Olivia," he said softly. Then he kissed me. Gentle. Honest. My heart nearly burst. Clara, of course, tried to interfere, calling me a gold digger and accusing me of using a grieving man. Her words broke me for a moment. But Daniel stopped me from leaving. "My marriage was not happy," he confessed, his voice trembling. "Isabella and I were lonely. But then you came. You brought light into my world. Olivia, I'm falling in love with you. Please don't go. Let's build a real family together. 6 months passed. The house was filled with laughter now. Noah and Lily smiled freely. Daniel was no longer the broken man I had first met. His eyes shone with love. I often walked past Isabella's old room, still closed, her sealed letter still in its box. I never opened it. Some memories are better left untouched. One evening, Daniel took my hand. "Are you happy, Olivia?" he asked. I looked at him, at our children, at the home we had built together. My heart swelled with gratitude. "Yes," I whispered. "More than I ever dreamed, more than I ever hoped." I had come there as a maid, desperate for a job. But soon, I would become Daniel's wife. Love, I realized, can grow in the most unexpected places. And with kindness and patience, even the saddest hearts can be healed. If you liked this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.